will be. So I've been writing my blog for just over 12 months, and my aim has really been to lend like a bit of an Aussie voice to the gender critical discourse. So I'm an adult human Sheila. Do check out my blog if you haven't already. It's ladykowalski.wordpress.com because I am a lady. So today I'm going to talk about how ACON, the AIDS Council of New South Wales, has successfully executed an agency capture exercise on the Australian government at all levels, using its Pride and Diversity and Australian Workplace Equality Index scheme. A lot of the information I'm going to talk to you today about is either in the public domain or it has come to a small group of us who performed a series of FOIs and actually requested information from government agencies. So I'll talk a little bit about the structure of Pride and Diversity, its history, some examples of how it's working in government, and a note on what we can do to take action. What we're talking about today is agency capture. This is a form of corruption where a political entity or a policymaker is taken over and given over to the needs of an ideological minority. For example, an organisation such as the Victoria Police is entered into by an organisation such as Pride and Diversity, claiming to represent the LGBTQ constituency, and convinces the leadership and indeed all of the staff that the needs of this group come before the needs of any other group. They are effective. And you can see, I mean, how many other flags have you seen the Victoria Police sit behind? So, way back in 2008, ACON first started to canvass the idea of replicating Stonewall UK's Diversity Champion scheme and the associated benchmarking tool, the Workplace Equality Index. This is really a corporatisation of rainbow activism and sanitising the gay rights agenda to make it palatable for corporations. They were able to bring together 8 foundational members, including the Australian Federal Police, pictured, and the Department of Defence. They called the scheme Pride in Diversity, and in 2010 they ran the very first Australian Workplace Equality Index tool, benchmarking the diversity and inclusion of Australian employers. If you haven't already, please do look up NOLAN Investigates Stonewall. There are strong parallels with how the Stonewall UK Diversity Champion Scheme is operating to influence government organisations in the UK, and there is actually a 13-part podcast about that. It's very instructive, and we can learn a lot in our context. By 2015, Pride and Diversity published a 5-year review of the Pride and Diversity scheme and the Australian Workplace Equality Index. They made some changes. So firstly, they introduced a platinum tier to the index to engage those consistent high performers. And just in case anybody got the impression that they had become inclusive by getting a really good score consistently for every year, there's always more to do. They also made a strong pivot towards trans and gender diverse inclusion. And they formed a public sector working group to grow paid membership and participation among the public sector. This graph here shows the number of public sector organisations that have been paid members of Pride and Diversity over time. So starting with 2, and we're currently sitting at 74 local, state and federal government organisations that are publicly paid up to Pride and Diversity. Overall, on the left, this shows in the green that it is around a third of the paid membership. So we also have universities, not-for-profits and private sector. And on the right, we're around a third of active participation in the Australian Workplace Equality Index tool. So yes, it does affect the public sector. It's very relevant to our context, but as we know, it's also in the private sector as well. ACON. ACON is the AIDS Council of New South Wales. They are largely funded by New South Wales Health for the purpose of slowing the spread of HIV in New South Wales. They have a business unit called Pride and Diversity, and this business unit operates a number of paid membership schemes, the Pride In schemes, and an organisation can become a member, they can use the logo on their website, they can, rah, we're really inclusive, they get access to some video content. Each of those branded schemes operates a free and anonymous to participate in index tool. It's very important that this index tool, the Australian Workplace Equality Index, is free. There's very little friction to participate, and they do encourage you. If you're nervous about it, just give it a go. If you don't get a good score, it's anonymous and you can try next year to just improve your score. It's a loss leader. It costs them money to operate this. They do it because they want engagement with their mission. Anyone can download the 45-page template. This is just a couple of the questions, just for the flavour of it. 67 detailed and demanding questions. When you add up all of the points that they're each worth, it totals 200 points. And the higher your score, the more diverse and inclusive that you are. These 200 points are spread across 10 thematic sections. Now, if anyone can quickly count, that's not 10. The purple is a single section. So this is actually that deals with operations and policy. So the day-to-day operations of your organisation, your policy, your HR, your hiring practices. Okay, and the single biggest point scoring area there is trans and gender diverse inclusion picked out. So your operations is gearing towards trans and gender diverse inclusion. That's their categorisation. By my categorisation, there are actually more points in that. And overall, the highest scoring section is networks. That is formation of activist networks within the organisation. I'll talk more about that later. Okay, so you've downloaded your tool, you've filled it in, you want to get some points. How do you win? All right. So you can they actually have categories. They have gold, silver, and bronze. But it's not that simple. So every year, there's no actual fixed way to get into the gold category. Every year they take the top 10, sometimes 12, sometimes 15, and make those the gold. And then the next 12 or so, they make those the silver. So you're never actually sure if you've done enough. You're always competing against other organisations. Because the Victoria Police, ABC, SBS, someone may have done something to pip you at the post. That's really important. What we are witnessing is called gamification. This is the application of typical elements of game playing. For example, point scoring, competition with others, and fixed rules of play to other areas of activity to encourage participation and engagement. So genuinely, an organisation says, well, we don't want to be homophobes. What can we do? And ACON says, well, you fill this in and you get a great score and you're not a homophobe. Brilliant. However, this tool doesn't teach an organisation how to nurture inclusivity. It teaches them how to comply with the tool. The focus of the organisation is captured towards ACON's agenda. And what is that agenda? Well, now that we have agency capture, of course, the leadership must be on board. There are 9 questions in total that cover senior executive roles, and that is the composition of those roles, as in who can hold them, the activities of senior executives, and the accountabilities of senior executives in the organisation for LGBTQ inclusion. One such question I find quite repugnant is that they must have at least one out senior executive, such as Amanda Hatter, the Chief Operations Officer of the ABC, who's standing here nicely with Ita Buckarose and David Anderson, Managing Director. The CEO will be sending emails on the importance of making progress on the LGBTQ agenda. progress, they stress that word. It is very important because, of course, I mean, you have to keep on progressing. This doesn't work if you declare that you're inclusive enough. You must keep on progressing. And of course now, a lot of people would say, well, we have marriage equality, what else is there to do? And we know it's the trans and gender diverse inclusion. Your senior executives or CEOs must be seen to be actively and publicly advocating for the importance of LGBTQ inclusion at internal events and at external events. Which events? Well, maybe you could come to one organised by Pride and Diversity. So you can win your 2 points by sending your most highly paid and valuable employees off for a day to go and to lend credence to their ideological agenda. There are a number of questions that deal with HR accountabilities. Question 18 in particular stipulates that there must be special pathways and special provisions for the recruitment of trans and gender diverse individuals, and you must have special arrangements for dealing with the challenges that they face particularly. Now, I believe that this is to do with documentation and police checks and anti-money laundering checks and that sort of thing, like having different names. Not entirely sure what they mean by that. But the ATO answers this criteria by having all recruitment panellists attend unconscious bias training. And with the leadership and HR on board, the Pride Network, it is the main organ of agency capture. The Pride Network is meant to be the grassroots network, employee network that represents LGBT people and their concerns. However, they are the ones that are organising the fundraisers. They're the ones who are urging the employees to put pronouns in their bio. They're the ones who are agitating for the all-gender toilets, and they're the ones who are attending the meetings and moving the agenda forward week after week after week. As I said in the beginning, Networks is the highest scoring section in the entire Australian Workplace Equality Index tool. Each one of the 10 highly paid relationship managers employed by Pride and Diversity were recruited because they set up a Pride network at their organisation prior to being recruited. It's the one thing they have in common. Now, normally, a network is very grassroots and, you know, there's no gay people, we don't do it kind of thing. But Pride and Diversity stipulates how it should run, who should be involved, when you should have meetings, who the leadership team should be. So you need to have a HR executive in your leadership of your Pride network, for example. You need to produce certain documents, such as a strategy, such as a succession plan, and a sustainability plan.
Okay. I'll be with that.
You must have a documented leadership structure. And the leaders are accountable for the network performance. The network itself must be accountable for moving forward the goals of the Australian Workplace Equality Index. This is from the ABC. They are also accountable for promoting trans allyship specifically and for promoting trans and gender diverse employees specifically, not just LGBT. They are responsible for promoting intersectionality within the Australian government. An unstated and covert goal of the Australian Workplace Equality Index is a financial one. Sprinkled throughout the index are 15 questions that require the organisation to spend money with Pride and Diversity approved vendors and providers, to donate money, to donate services, to promote relationships within the LGBTQ community, to lend their support, like to, for example, have a float or have a marquee at a branded event, to mention LGBTQ inclusion in a business context, such as in a pitch meeting with a supplier or a vendor, or to have employees put their own hands in their pockets. and raise money for LGBTQ causes. I want to emphasise at this point, this is definitely not a cash grab on the part of ACON. This is a strategic play on their part to broaden the LGBTQ, the rainbow marketplace. They want to have a network of suppliers and they want to be the linchpin of that network. ABC example, they purchase all their merch from an allyship provider. Very important. The SBS, on the other hand, this is beautiful. The SBS spend their consulting dollars with Pride and Diversity to help them develop an LGBTQ training package, which was then accredited by Pride and Diversity. And they have gone out, this training package is available on the market. We could go and pay and have them deliver this to us. So again, Pride and Diversity, they're happy for you to make money off this, as long as you're saying the right things. They want to be in control of the message. That's the important thing here. And they're very happy to accredit providers to give their message. When it comes to pro bono support or fundraising, the ATO lets them. For their 2 points, they pop down $11,000 every year to sponsor the Australian Workplace Equality Index Awards Luncheon. A worthy cause. I included this because it gives you a sense of the scale of this. You know, this is, every single one of these points costs dollars, it costs time, it costs the resources of very highly skilled and highly paid individuals. And if you think that it's worth 2 points, $11,000. But they also pay to go to the awards luncheon, by the way. They also buy tickets. So, in conclusion, I do think organisations genuinely want to be inclusive, and for the most part, I don't think it's cynical on their part. However, this is an exercise in agency capture, in that ACON has taken that desire and has misdirected it towards flags and platitudes and rah-rah, and let's all have a rainbow logo, and it's very empty. I don't think it actually does promote genuine diversity or genuine inclusion. Someone did ask me, well, would I support this sort of a scheme for women? And no, I actually would not, because of the effort I can see this takes up. So I don't think we should have these schemes for anyone, because there are a number of groups that would need them, and pretty soon our entire government would be given over to filling in surveys, and it would be ridiculous. We don't need this. This is not genuine diversity and inclusion. So what do we do? Well, if you score really highly, then you might get an award at the Australian Workplace Equality Award Luncheon. However, if you generate any media attention, particularly negative media attention around LGBTQ issues, there is a stick. You can lose 25 points from your total score in the Australian Workplace Equalities Index. And so I believe that that media attention is going to be one of our more effective and more immediately effective tools. So please do join me. For the moment, I'm on Twitter. I would like you to join me in asking #how many points is that policy worth? Asking our Australian government to axe the Australian Workplace Equalities Index and to come out of ACON. So I have a Twitter handle, come out of ACON, and there is a website coming soon where we'll be publishing case studies and more information to help you direct your attention and make notes about this.